Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are in the world right now. It is your boy back at it again with another episode of the Collis Stutzer Show, formerly known as the Culture Talks, because the culture does talk. And listen, man, the past 2 weeks I've had some solo episodes. I didn't have a guest on. I know y'all might be mad at me. I know y'all might be a little upset because at the end of every episode, I say I'll be back next week with a fire guest. And I always say I haven't lied to you yet, but I can't say that today because y'all had to deal with me the past 2 weeks. So, but today we are back with a fire guest and back in rotation, back in motion with some guests. And if you're watching this on video right now, you see this amazing gentleman just standing right here, sitting right here in front of you. But if you are listening strictly through audio, I'm gonna have him introduce himself in 3, 2, 1. Go ahead and say what's up to the people, my guy.
What's going on, everybody? This is Craig Moore with Black Excellence KC, Wyandotte County native. Excited to be here. Let's get to it.
Hell yeah. And so like you just said, just to give a little bit of background about our guest that we have here today, Craig Moore is the co-founder of Black Excellence KC and took over the organization, I believe, in 2020. He'll confirm this or deny this here in a second. Director for Venture for America. And then also, we're going to jump into about the band scholarship, his time in university, leaving the school, going to take care of fam, take care of business and getting deep into the thing we call life, right? Where we work and hustling, trying to figure out where we're trying to go, trying to find our direction along this path, this journey, So, man, thank you for jumping on the podcast. Thank you so much for your time and energy today. I know you're a busy guy. I know the weekend might be a time of rest, so I appreciate you giving me a little bit of work.
Oh yeah. I sneak it in. My wife, she took my daughter to a dance class, so like we got some time to sneak it in real quick. I'm ready.
Say less. We're gonna work through it. I love it, man. So, you're a self-described ecosystem builder, culture guardian, talent curator. All, by the way, fire phrases. I like that. But could you kind of break down what the aforementioned means and looks like to you? Like those 3 things, like kind of break down in your mind when you say that's what you do, like what that looks like.
Got you. So, top one is the ecosystem builder. I think that when we think about how we're trying to move forward as a Black culture, it's a unified effort, right? And it takes a true ecosystem for us to kind of be in that piece of unity with understanding each other's parts in it, understanding the resources that are available for it. And almost in a sense, it kind of plays into a lot of my background that I've done technically is project management, right? Like, who are your stakeholders? What are your resources? What is your timeline to get these things done? And so I've positioned myself and even Black Excellence KC to kind of be that hub of resources, be that safe space where Black professionals, Black businesses, organizations who are trying to impact the Black community can really get involved. And in a sense, kind of be Switzerland, right? This is where peace happens. This is where structure happens. I'm, strategically connecting everyone, strategically ensuring that everybody has the information that's needed for their progression. And then I can then ultimately report out like, this is what's happening. This is the temperature of the Black community. This is the temperature of us moving away from some of these negative data points that might be out there about our culture, as us hitting net zero as a community in 2053. Is that going to be I seen a Kira from the EBB, she posted up a slide that said, is that going to be our deadline, or is that going to be our death sentence? And so I'm really trying to cultivate just this sense of community, but then also ensure that there's a pipeline for our youth to kind of see that representation. To see people are doing things outside of what advertisement agencies and entertainment really kind of puts out there for us. And there's nothing wrong with those ideas, but we already know that there's a small percentage of those who are super successful. And so what happens to when you're a child or you're a kid and you're growing up and you realize, I don't have as much rhythm as I thought I did, or I'm not as physical fit as I thought I would be, and so to be able to see that there are other pathways, and even pathways of innovation out there, is big for me. And then when it comes to just a culture guardian. Honestly, when I say, when I talk to people about Black Excellence KC, and they say, is it just for Black people? I'm like, no, but the content is gonna be black, blackity black. Like, and it's that normalization of Black leadership. It's that normalization that you as a white person, or as anybody from any other culture, you can learn something from a Black professional, right? And for us to be known for as much resiliency, I would just like to say my own personal opinion is that the information that you're getting is probably going to be some of the best information that you had. You know what I mean? Like, we've built this country off our backs, honestly, literally, and to learn from that perspective, and to learn how to still be a shark, in this big ocean, in that perspective, and who've had so many barriers in front of them. What do you think that you can do with that knowledge added with your privilege? You know what I'm saying? So being a culture guardian of, being one, pushing the acceptance of, even our own language, the African American vernacular, pushing the acceptance of those, and then making sure that those who are interacting with it have this understanding that it's going to be a tough conversation, and have this understanding that it is going to be something different. But also understanding that this is normal. That's a huge piece of it for me. And then that last one, I don't even remember what that last one was.
Talent curator,
talent curator. So strong, super background in entertainment. Actually started off in college. Was always the party promoter guy. Did a couple of big things in that, and came back to Kansas City. After leaving college, actually just kind of ran out of money and was like, I'm not going to pull out any more loans. So came back to Kansas City to kind of really figure out what that looked like. So got even more heavily into the entertainment and started managing artists. And so in managing artists, I was able to touch artists like Greg Enemy, if anybody knows him, from a cup for about 10 years ago. Was able to manage JLB Hood through his 10-year Strange Music. Was able to manage Love Macy for a little while. Did some support with Indie Ground and Steady P. Done a lot of things with Jay White, who's now a big producer for Kansas City. And even Joe Black with the development of District, really honing in on those managerial skills for those artists. But then I was able to recently transfer those skills now into any career. With Black Excellence KC and Venture for America, it's all about me supporting diverse talent to understand their sense of community, to understand what their career trajectory is going to be, and then to be that accountability partner along the way, which is exactly what I did for all those artists that I named.
Exactly.
And so really just being that, any type of talent, being able to curate what your plan is going to be, find the resources for you. And then again, just as you have a career development officer or a career development counselor in college, I'm that for you. And I'm structuring my organization to be that for you throughout the rest of your life and your career. So yeah, that's kind of where all that goes.
I love that. I really love the explanation you gave for culture guardian, and like pushing the acceptance, especially of our language. That kind of definitely like sparked up something in my head, and like helping people understand that this is normal. It's not bad. It's not ghetto. It's not ratchet. It's not this. It's not poor English. This is normal. This is how we talk. This is how we communicate. We can have business conversations this way. We can have family conversations this way. We can talk about building community this way. We can talk about love. We can talk about motivation, inspiration, impact. We can do all that while using the African American vernacular. It doesn't, and like I think that was a strong point. And I would love to learn how you push that, or like how you have those conversations or approach those conversations at another time. But that's because I might have to take some skills from that and apply it to my life.
Hey, authenticity is natural, man. And that's what it is. It's like I'm in these rooms and to be frank, like just recently pitching BSKC to a room full of white women, and great white women who have really great intention. But they have to understand that as I'm talking, or the things that I'm saying, I'm normalizing that in my presentation, right? I'm normalizing that in the information that I give. My wife, she's a school psychologist, and that's probably one of her biggest things, is that she has to get these teachers to understand that, you know, the things that the kids are saying are not things of aggression. That's just how they talk. You know what I mean? Like, they're not going to do nothing, you know what I mean? And, or when they say, man, get out of here, that doesn't mean that they actually want you to leave. You know what I mean? Like, or they actually don't want to be in this space. You know what I mean? So getting that normalization, I mean, and what it is and how it has to be approached is that we just got to use it. We can't be afraid to use it. We can't be apologetic about being that. You know, it just has to happen. And that uncomfortability, like I said, you're going to be uncomfortable because you're not going to understand what I'm saying. You're not going to understand that I don't want to talk about Will Smith smacking Chris Rock in the workspace because that happened in our family. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's behind closed doors. I don't want to be working talking about that. That's not for you to communicate with me about. And we just have to be strong and understanding, and that is our boundary, and it's okay for us to say that that is our boundary. And then they have to be okay with accepting that boundary, just like they will probably accept any other boundary that they have from our communication or their communication with anybody else. So you just got to do it to normalize it.
I love it. I love that a lot. It cracks me up because I was thinking about the other day, I was training one of my clients, and it wasn't even like no crazy, like it wasn't even no crazy slang term or anything. Like, it was just a regular term I feel like everyone in the world knows. I was asking him, I said, have you ever drove down 143rd before in Overland Park? And he's like, yeah. He's like, of course. And I was like, yeah, man, there's some fat cribs over there. And he was like, cribs? And I was like, I was like, homes. He's like, oh. And I was like, dang, I forgot. Like, I forgot this is not the language is not the same across the spectrum. But I love that. I love that a lot.
Google Translate needs an upgrade so we can be
absolutely. We got it. You know, like, you know how Google and all these companies are trying to come out with these immediate translations for, like, if you travel to Spain or something, like, I would like some cake. So, you know, blah, blah, blah. Right. I'm like, we need something like that.
100%.
I love it. So, you know, one thing I always try to ask, you know, guests that come on the show, is some qualities that they admire about their parents. You know, parents play a huge role in our lives, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, I've had some people on the show that, you know, got like 2-step parents, you know, two dads, two moms. Like, you know, it's whatever that is for however you grew up. I would just love to know, you know, what are some qualities that you really admire about your parents, and that you, what's the word I want to use, that you took for yourself and kind of applied to your life as you got older?
Yeah, I'm gonna kick it off with my mom. My mom has always been a culture champion. Growing up right off Quindaro, we've all stayed in Wyandotte County for our entire life. My grandmother lived right down the street from our church, First Baptist Church of Quindaro, and was known as, you know, if you can't get into church, you pull up to her house and she got keys, even though she wasn't a deaconess or anything like that. So my mom actually brought that on, and even early, and what really kind of got my start in small business development was my mom. Like, she worked specifically for Black businesses. Those are the jobs that she went for. She wanted to be supportive. She'll help them out with, you know, any operational things, helping them out with their finances, put me on projects to, you know, I learned about spreadsheets early. Yes, and it was clearly about supporting this, and profitable ones too, you know, minority contractors, you know, it's just the list goes on with who she impacted. And so that has really what kind of struck my love for, like, just us and understanding, you know, what, you know, we all talk about the Black Wall Street in Tulsa, but if you look back and think about what Quindaro really was before it got ran down, before the crack, like, that was our Black Wall Street in Kansas, you know what I mean? And so, and let alone from what 18th and Vine was providing, you know. And so you know, being able to have that source as, you know, somebody who kind of gave me my identity early and gave me, you know, what I'm passionate about, and, you know, actually things that I really sacrificed for. Like, my mom sacrificed a lot too. It was long nights where I should have been in bed before school. And, you know, we're sitting at, you know, a cousin of mine's house because she's got to work on grant proposals for them, or she's working on loan applications for them, you know, and she really brought in her corporate structure to these to these businesses, which I mean really plays in a lot to what I'm doing for BXKC. And then it's my pops. My pops, he's always had an entrepreneur spirit, but he grinded it out. You know, he worked at PQ Corporation, was the union president for I don't know how long. And it was really about, I'm doing this for my kids, you know, like as much as I want to be, you know, he tried Primerica, he tried all these little coffee, you know, what we call now pyramid schemes. But at the time, you know, those are the things that are happening. And that was the way that he can tap into his entrepreneurial spirit. And I've always said, like, once I get to where I want to get, you know, I want to be able to, you know, see from like pops, whatever you want to do now, you know, if you want to be a stylist or you want to do whatever, like, let's make that happen, because that was his ultimate dream. And so both of them having those spirits, and, you know, my dad didn't tell me about it till later, because I always just thought that he just wanted to be a union guy, but that was never his thing. But he was that guy who always had like a different kind of car every 6 months. So I've definitely grown into that. You know, just really trying to tap into the dreams that my parents had, and make them my own. And a lot of people might call that imposter syndrome, but it's also, you know, just as much as we have general curses, we also have generational blessings, you know. And so
yes, sir.
I've taken those blessings onto mine to really take those spirits on. And man, and this is probably honestly in my journey over the last 10 years, and I've been thinking about this, especially specifically lately. You know, it's everything's done for a reason, truly done for a reason. And so to kind of see those things, and I was actually just at my mom's house before this, going through a lot of the stuff in our basement that I needed to bring home. And I was like, man, she was like, this is what I've been praying for. These are a lot of things that I've been trying to happen, and they're happening to you now. You know, I've applied for jobs that I know I had no business applying for. You know, VML Y&R is probably one of the biggest ones. Before they merged, I applied at VML and I applied at Y&R, and you know, was softly shut down, and knew that I wasn't going to get those positions. But now, like, I'm having conversations with them about how can I support their Black professionals. And so to see that come full circle, and kind of see that spirit that my parents kind of led into me happen now, man, I don't really have words for it, but just thank you, you know, and giving all praises to the high for allowing me to be this vessel, man.
I love that. And kind of on that topic of like the work you're doing now, and the blessings you're starting to see arise, and the full circle moments you're starting to see arise. You know, when you think back to 17-year-old Craig, like, was this where you wanted to be at this age? Do you think, like, is this what you envisioned? And if not, like, you know, how does it feel? And what did that look like?
I would say that I've always known that I wanted to be a leader. You know, I think back into the days where Take a Child to Work Day was really big, right? And so
I forgot
my aunt was the one who could really do it, and she worked for Southwestern Bell. And every time I walked in there, like, okay, guys, what do you all want to be when you grow up? I always wrote CEO. Like, I didn't think about nothing else. I want to be the person who's running this joint. I want to be the person that they look to for help. I want to be the person who has vision. And was that, you know, in middle school, you know. And so I always knew I wanted to be a leader. Being a leader of what? Had no idea what that was going to be. 17-year-old Craig actually had a word spoken into him that I would be speaking to the masses. Shrugged it off, had no idea where it came from. But shout out to Bobby, who put that word into me now. I actually reached out to him the other day and was like, yo, I see what you've seen in me a long time ago, right? I see that now. And so I think also too, one thing that kind of triggered in my head is that I knew that I wanted that, but I was also afraid of it, right? Because I don't have the traditional career plan. You know, I don't have that college education. I didn't work at this major corporation. But what I had to really trust and believe in is my God-given skill set, you know, and really understanding that even though I might not know the terminology of what I do, I know I can do it. You know what I mean? And so like, I don't know your European term for being a project manager until I found out, oh, that's a project manager. That's what they do. That's what that's about. All right.
I learned it yesterday.
That's what I do. So, you know, looking back at it now, man, and, you know, 10 years ago, I started the fast track program with Kaufman. for a startup called U Hoops with a good friend of mine, DeMarcus Weeks, and had no idea what I was getting myself into. Found some way for them to scholarship our participation in that program, and I could say now that like I know exactly why. I mean, for 2 years, in those 2 years, I was walking, bro. I was literally on the bus. I put my feet on every piece of Kansas City from Raytown all the way to Wyandotte County, like living in Westport, taking the bus all the way out to Sam's Club at the Legends because I was a taste and tips manager. You know what I mean? Like I've literally put my feet on every piece of this soil and had no idea why I go through that experience. But as now the community director for Venture for America, where I'm bringing in kids, or not kids, but graduates to work into the startup community. And my whole job is to get them to know Kansas City. I mean, what better experience do I need than to say that I know every nook and cranny of this city. I know how to get you around. I know how to make sure you go to this space, or this space is meant for you. I wouldn't have had that in a corporate setting. I had to go through that struggle. I had to go through that detour in order for me to be where I'm at right now. So at this point now, I'm just grateful, man. And again, just happy to be on this earth and be a vessel and be a connector for, you know, people who I don't want to go through, I went through, but I want them to experience everything I did go through.
I love it. I love it. And I think we kind of, you know, have been waving over BXKC and waving over Venture for America. But I would love for you to kind of share in depth, you know, what the two of those organizations really are trying to do, and kind of what you're working on at Black Excellence KC right now in 2022.
Yeah, 100%. So when I say I'm a talent curator, you know, that's about bringing in talent to Kansas City and then retaining that talent to Kansas City. So with Venture for America, we are a nonprofit organization across 13 different cities. So we're in places like Tulsa, St. Louis, Detroit, Miami, San Antonio, those cities who are really like emerging cities when it comes to the startup community, right? And so being in this space, I am now able to get access to basically every college campus across the nation, right? So we pitch ourselves to every college campus to build a fellowship of college graduates. And these college graduates are in turn trying to get into our 2-year fellowship. And in this 2-year fellowship, we actually place them in one of these cities and we match them to a job, a startup job in Kansas City or any of those cities that I listed. And so being able to be a face on some of these campuses, especially regionally, to say, hey, I have this opportunity for you to come straight out of college, work in a startup, a high growth startup. You know, this startup just raised, you know, a $3 million fund. This startup just raised, you know, a $5 million fund. And you're going to be a pivotal piece in the development of them growing into a startup, and really giving you those holistic resources for you to be a startup founder yourself. And that's ultimately the goal. Like in that 2-year fellowship, you know, I do a lot of one-on-ones with them. I support them in whatever their career or community aspect or goals are that they want to achieve here in Kansas City. My goal is to ultimately keep them here in Kansas City as long as I can. You know, I really don't even like putting that term of 2 years on it, because really I'm bringing you here to be a lifelong Kansas Citian, for you to be a lifelong member of this startup for as long as that they're going. And then if they do have a plan for exit, we have that support system to surround you with either getting another job or you starting up your own business as well. And so VFA is, you know, hyper focused on finding that top tier talent. This year, we recruited nationwide 154 fellows into our fellowship. My goal is to get at least 10 to 15 of them here in Kansas City. That's kind of the season I'm in right now, is matching them with those startup companies. A lot of great startup companies that, I mean, I wish I would have known about this program. I probably would have grinded a little bit harder to graduate, you know what I mean, and get into it. But I mean, you know, just for a little bit of name dropping of the companies that they work for here in Kansas City, 68 Capital, which is a VC firm out of Indiana. One of our fellows, Nasir Chris, works for them. Startland News, is one of our company partners. Novel Growth, KC Rise Fund, 5 Elms Venture Capital. You have Triple Blind, which is a major software development company here, in Genes Design. And these are like jobs that, you know, you need at least 3 or 4 years in the experience to do it. But because you went through this specific fellowship, because you made it through our gauntlet of a interview process, which is like a 3-month process, 3-tier process, group project, you know, super vetted. I honestly don't think I would have made it even if I did have access to this type of resource. But you know, you get super access. Like I was just in a meeting yesterday with Black and Veatch about, you know, how can we get our fellows into your innovation accelerator? Super excited about it, working out what that details look like. But, and that's what we're trying to do is like, how can we get these corporations involved that have these innovation arms that need that young talent to really develop, you know, the next product that will take their major corporation to the next level. So that's what I get to do on a day-to-day, as far as bringing in that talent, getting access to that diverse talent. And it's super in line with what I'm doing with Black Excellence KC. And you know, I know that that branding, that BXKC, you know, you automatically think Kansas City, but it's actually creating community. And because we are positioning ourselves to be, you know, first a regional, but also a national organization. Okay. And so with BXKC, it started off in 2019 with a good friend of mine, Kiana Sinks. We just realized that there are so many silos of Black professionals across Kansas City kind of doing the same things. And they need a spot to connect with each other, network with each other, and kind of really understand what they're all doing. And so we started off with a couple of networking events. COVID hit and stopped that immediately. And we wanted to, you know, ensure that I think we were hit with a charge, and it was from a now Representative Barbara Washington. But at the time she was like, you know, what is it that you guys are doing? Is it just another networking group? Because there's plenty of those in Kansas City, but how are you really building impact to these people that you're connecting with? And so during COVID, that gave us some time to do some programming to really understand, but to really start resourcing. And so we started a panel discussion called Rebuild Honestly. So even going on to now, we have a monthly panel discussion where we talk about ideas of economic development and what that looks like for a Black professional, from Black professional experts in those spaces. Next month, we have one coming up. It's called, in a sense, Are You Ready or Not? But it's really just about, are Black contractors, are Black businesses really ready for the resources and opportunities that are coming to Kansas City? Like with Meta. Meta's coming to Kansas City. There's going to be contracts out there to help build their facilities. Are our Black contractors and Black businesses ready for that? The draft is coming next year. Are our Black businesses ready for, when people are traveling to cities now, they're intentional about finding Black businesses. Are these Black businesses prepared for this tourism that's coming in? The National Black Association for Engineers is coming to Kansas City next year, which brings thousands of Black engineers who are going to be intentional about supporting Black businesses in Kansas City. They're not going to want to wait for their fish sandwich for 30 minutes in between this conference. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's, as a Kansas City, I'm cool because I want to support, like I want to be local, but as a tourist, that's not what I'm looking for. I want to be able to experience everything else outside of your restaurant. And so we're holding this panel discussion and also providing resources for them to be connected to those who are out there to support them, like the Heartland Black Chamber, like KC Black Owned, like Porterhouse KC, even like J.E. Dunn, who are getting a lot of these contracts, to be in the building for you to immediately get contact with them. And that's basically what we kind of built a lot of our social awareness around. But this year we kicked off our premium membership, and our premium membership at this time is targeted towards corporations who have ERGs, and those are employee resource groups. So we go into these corporations. A lot of them have already done their big DEI. This is our plan. This is what we want to do to support. And so we're just trying to be that support mechanism for them to actually say, all right, we're actually doing this, right? And so we find awareness, or we help them, we ideate with them on events to build community within their corporation. We become their bridge to the community to connect them with resources, like a Lyrics Institute, who is impacting Black kids in underserved communities who need to see that representation. And so we're now connecting those Black professionals to those type of resources, or like a Junior Achievement or a Lead to Read who needs those same volunteer services. And then we help each individual professional. What is your career track? Like, where are you trying to go? We have a personalized assessment that's being built from a doctoral group in at Missouri University, where it gauges what is the Black professional experience in this corporate setting, and what is this corporation saying that they're doing for the Black professional, and where they're meeting and where they're missing. And so that's where BSKC kind of plays in as that consultant to kind of help with that support. But we're also building a framework for any other culture to kind of do the same thing that we're doing. And I mean, man, we've grown since 2019 from just having events and now having a 500 plus membership and growing. Right. And growing vastly now, because now we're getting connected to these corporations who their ERGs are 300 Black professionals deep alone, and they're all across the nation. So super excited for the work that's happening. Also scared a little bit just because it's just Craig and about 30 Black volunteers, some of the busy black people in Kansas City kind of helping me out. So there's a capacity that we're hyper focused on supporting those corporations and focus on, you know, just building that fundraising at this point. But yeah, man, tying those two together, which I'm blessed to have. VFA really love the stuff that I'm doing with Black Excellence KC. It was actually probably
that's a blessing.
Part of my interview process. I literally told them, I was like, look, I'm gonna be doing this work whether you hire me or not. So you might as well come along for the ride. And they were like, let's do it. And so, yeah, man, both of those tied is kind of where that talent, to me, I like to be looked at as ultimately the diverse talent guy, and just really trying to out here support and, you know, and protect our people at the same time.
Hell yeah. I love it. I love everything you're doing. And also you kind of made me think about, you know, the way I think, I guess. and that's because you mentioned the draft. You mentioned, you know, something. What did you say about the Black engineer?
The NASB conference that's coming in town. That's
so big. So like a huge conference that's coming in town. You also mentioned
Meta,
yeah, coming in with their data center. So like it's just changing my approach to how I think is like when these companies are coming in, how can I, for two things. Number one, like you said, you know, they're looking for, especially if it's like, you know, the draft has a shit ton of Black folk coming through it, as you already know, like, come on. And then number two, like, you know, with knowing what conferences that are coming into town that are minority focused or Black focused, and then knowing, you know, massive companies that are coming into town that are going to have to sign new contracts, like just being able to think like that. Not many people think like that. So, well, I mean, it is your job to think like that. So I think like you think like that, but right. I was just thinking about that. I'm like, damn, well, like from you know, me being, you know, just from like maybe the podcast perspective, just thinking about, okay, like how can I leverage my media personality with like the draft coming into town, or Black engineers? Can I get some amazing guests that are Black engineers coming into town? Can I be a media personality at that conference? Or like with the draft coming into town, how can I like finesse for like, you know, NFL to look at Kansas City Black owned businesses or Black owned creators to come in and shoot some stuff for, or interview parents, I don't know, interview parents at the NFL draft for the NFL, you know. But I'm not thinking about that until you start mentioning it. I'm like, damn, I really do got to see what type of conferences are coming in down, what type of things, because big events like that take time for you to like get a position, get a contract, get something. So it's like you got to start a year, 2 years early, versus like, oh, draft came in town yesterday and I'm over here trying to DM them.
100%, man. I mean, and I think what it is that, and this is even coming from like my experience as an artist manager in Kansas City. We worry so much about getting the support of the community, which is great, right? You want your friends to rock with you on the things that you're doing. You want your people to rock with you on the things that you're doing. But did you build it for them, or did you build it to actually have this national notoriety that you really need to be successful? You know, real talk, that thing that Myron Fears from Hot 103 Jam. So Kansas City is not a rapper city at all. We are an R&B city. So you trying to make it as a rapper in Kansas City is probably not the good business strategy that you need to have. Like, you want Kansas City to recognize you. And a lot of times, those who get recognized the most are those who left, they made something of themselves, and now they've come back and everybody wants to wrap themselves around them. And so if you know that that is our culture, that is what we naturally do, even in business, you have to be thinking about, what is the outside looking into Kansas City for, and how can I provide, or how can I support that gap? But then it's also access to the knowledge of these things happening. You know, we as a culture are always late, even in some of the chambers and in some of the support groups that help Black professionals. We're pretty much late to the task, and because we don't have access to being a part of like that initial thought process, right? And then it becomes an afterthought. Oh, we got to make sure that when we bring this event here, it has to be diverse. And so a piece of what my charge is in this position that I'm in these rooms that I'm in, is getting them to recognize that, like, yo, you're planning this big campaign to bring even FIFA. Kansas City is top 3 for FIFA to come. Now they realize they do one in the States. There's no way that it's not going to be successful without Black support, without it being diverse. You need all those things. And honestly, it should be a part of your initial pitch. I mean, I missed the ball on that, but once I knew that, I was on the phone, I was calling the leadership that I knew and being like, yo, this organization needs to be a part of it. This organization needs to be a part of it. This organization needs to be a part of it. But as them being a Black organization, they need the capacity to really be in the space that you're in as well. So not only do you need to give them opportunity, but you need to cut a check. You know what I'm saying? Like, Casey Black Owned needs a check for all the work that she's been doing. She's been putting up billboards. She has partnership with Casey Current. She's helped out. A lot of people don't know that a lot of the reason why Black businesses got the awareness that they did for the Greater Kansas City Chambers, top startups or whatever that they've been doing over the last couple months, is because she gave them access to her database for free. You know what I mean? Like, for free, which a couple of us advise her not to do, but it's like, she knows that these Black businesses need that notoriety. A lot of us can't afford a membership with the chamber, and this is the way that we're going to get. So she's out there grinding, but then y'all complain to her as a Black business about having $100 booth fee at her event. It's like, if you knew the hustle and grind that happens behind the scenes to make this happen, $100 ain't nothing. You know what I'm saying? You spend $100 on some J's, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If not more, you know what I'm saying? So
twice a week.
Twice a week, you know what I mean? Like, them drops is nothing. Even from the booster, they still gonna hit you for a bill. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, we have to have this understanding of, one, we need to think outside the box. Two, when people are providing knowledge or providing opportunities for us to get that knowledge, we need to be there. We need to be like, even all of my rebuild, honestly, when I'm doing all these resource things, it's free. Like, you just got to show up, and people are there looking for you to show up so that they can give you access. And so you just need to participate, right? And then the third one is being okay with supporting these organizations and these businesses that are looking to do things for you when they ask you for something. The one thing that we lack, we don't have, like, Kansas City and a lot of these chambers and a lot of these organizations that are helping businesses, they have huge families that are pouring in cash to make this happen. Kansas City don't have that. Like, we do not have, I appreciate gifts and their formula with, $10 a month is going to help this Black business, right? But honestly, it's going to take way more than that. And a lot of us don't have that expendable income, you know what I mean? And so it's like, when you see that you have the opportunity to donate, I do a donation thing all the time. All I'm doing is asking to help me raise $500, $5 from, I don't know, I don't want to do the math right now because I don't want to embarrass myself. But for me to get that $500,
we don't do public math.
Right? We don't do public math, you know what I'm saying? But it just takes a little bit, you know what I mean? So we have to be supportive, and we have to have grace, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's why I continuously go to Black-owned business. I continuously help these services that are out there. I just moved into a house, and every contractor that I had that touched my house was a Black contractor, but I've also had to be like, hey, here's some feedback, you know what I mean, to help you, you know what I'm saying, go on, and you have to be okay with that feedback. It's such a mind shift and a perspective change that needs to happen in our community. That's not going to happen overnight. But it's going to take people, you know what I'm saying, like myself, like the Heartland Black Chamber, like Porterhouse KC, like KC Black Owned, who's really trying to help shift those mindsets. I mean, we just need our people to engage and know, like, this is what has to happen. I love that everybody has entrepreneur spirit. They want to do their cookie shops and all this other stuff, but that's not going to move the needle for economic development. And I'm just going to be real. Like, I start your pop-up, you know what I mean? Let everybody know that you got cookies and you selling cookies out there. But how are you thinking about, now that I got my formula that everybody loves my cookies, how can I get these frozen and on the shelves at Walmart? You know, how can I distribute this dough to where, or how can I partner with Messenger, who's probably one of the biggest coffee shops in Kansas City, to get my cookies in there? Like, how am I thinking about scaling this? So then now I'm not just a small business, but I'm a maker, and I need to build a factory, and I can provide jobs, and I can provide distribution. And now I have this.
How can you maximize impact?
Yeah, we gotta think way bigger than what we're thinking right now. And there's a lot of resources and tools and people who are willing to help. We just got to engage and know that we don't know everything. You know what I'm saying? And it's not all that information is always not going to come from a Black person either. Like, there are some.
You got to be okay with that too,
man. I'm trying to tell you, I'll be having conversations all the time. Like, you can't just have an automatic attitude just because they don't look like you, especially when they're trying to help. And especially when they're transparent and saying, hey, I'm going to say some shit wrong. I'm okay with you checking me on saying some shit wrong. I'm probably going to cry about it at night, but I'm going to keep on coming in and trying to help. And we have to be okay with understanding, like, they're not going to get it right. That's the reason why I'm trying to do what I'm doing with BSKC. And that's what I told all those women in those HR departments. There's no way that you're going to be able to understand what you need to understand in a click of a night for you to have a diverse community. You need to partner with Black people who's going to help you be that transition support. I'm gonna be your translator to understand what this young lady was trying to tell you, and no, she's not strong, and I mean, no, she's not aggressive. She just knows her barriers, and she's strong in what she's doing because she's had to grow up and live that way. She had to be the person who took care of her brothers and sisters and went to work and grinded it out because her parents couldn't really do what they were doing, all because of systemic racism. If you understand that, then now you understand why she's quote unquote aggressive. Like, no, she just fucking knows what she wants, and she wants you to give it to her because she knows that you're bullshitting by not trying to give it to her. So it's like, and that's what Black men do. So I mean, that's it's a mindset shit that has to happen, man. And yeah, man, it's gonna be a slow grind, but we're gonna get there. Like,
slow grind, but a good grind. And as long as the grind don't stop, we will arrive at your destination.
100%.
That's a fact. That's a given. One thing this life will guarantee, in my humble opinion, you know, maybe not everybody will agree, but is if you're consistent with your effort, like, you're gonna get what you want. You're gonna get what you need. It may not be exactly what you want, but you're gonna get what you need, if that makes sense. Yeah. So it's all about consistent effort. Man, two things. I'm always excited, and if you go back and listen to, like, I mean, I'm not telling you to, but if you listen to 112 of my past episodes, you know, every 10 episodes, you'll hear me say, hey man, I really love, just whoever I'm speaking to, I really love the way that you communicate and share your message and share your story, because you do it effectively, and that means that more impact and value will be received by the listener. So I kind of just want to celebrate you and give you a little high five through the camera. To say that you're doing a great job, you know, the way you communicate, the energy in which you speak, and, you know, the topics you've touched on, just, you know, from whatever questions came up, you know, you've been killing it. So I just want to say thank you. So my next question is, what's the biggest area right now you're curious about, and why? It doesn't have to specifically be around BXKC or Venture for America, but it can be too. But just in general, what's the biggest area you're curious about right now, and why? Or maybe what are some things you're researching the most right now?
I would say the biggest thing that I'm researching now is understanding venture capitalists, or understanding what those firms look like and what they do. VFA has really like, put me in knee deep into that talk and that understanding. So I've been really just trying to just get my terminology up, just so I can be able to speak their language. But also I'm coming to understand that these are sometimes firms who are handling 401ks. There are sometimes firms who are handling, large family, what are they called? Trust and things like that. And so understanding like, what is the requirement? You know what I mean? Like I said, like there are major Black families across the nation that can really pour into some things. I love that a lot of these VC companies are now building funds specifically for Black founders, specifically for Black businesses, or Black startups, I should say. And so just really trying to figure out that whole space ultimately, because, again, like I said before, like small businesses is not, I love that we're going to have mom and pop shops. Mom and pop shops do have a space in economic development, but when we're talking about trying to go against the grind and accelerated growth, startups is the way to go, right? And so as a Black engineer who can get in contact with the Black and Veatch, because Black and Veatch has a hurdle and they need somebody who can go out there and hustle up the cash, because Black and Veatch doesn't have the cash, but they got the resources and support for you to hustle up a good MVP, and which is basically a good model for what they will eventually acquire. That takes VC work. And, I just recently, or probably been about a month and a half ago, our last rebuild, honestly, that we did is called Black in Startup, right? And we heard from those who are really doing some things in that startup world, like Josh Lewis with the Up Down app, Donald Hawkins, who's doing some great things with the Kinley app, which is a Black-owned online bank. They recognize that when they even go in to do their pitches, as much VC terminology they understand, when they're talking about they're doing something for the culture, those VCs don't understand what that looks like, And so how can we get more Black families to start being VCs? And so that we can be able to have those supports that are needed, and then they don't feel like they need to fly to Atlanta or fly to DC or wherever the place may be, to where they'll find those places. But Kansas City, I know Kansas City got it. I know some of those people who would cut some checks for other things, but not necessarily for our people. So just really trying to understand that space, man. I'm kind of getting into crypto and all that other stuff, but I'm not 100. I know it's going to be a thing. I got some little coin somewhere that somebody's doing some stuff for me for it, but I just can't. I'm not in the financial space to really pour a lot of energy into it.
Right.
And my wife, she's just like, no, I don't get it. So
that's real. I think, like, just quick touch on that topic. I think for anybody who's like interested in that space, like especially right now, like it requires a lot of energy, a lot of time to educate yourself about something so new that can be so powerful. Does that make sense? So it's like, so many people kind of want to just jump right in, just like, it's like, oh, this is interesting, this is going to be big, jump in. It's like, but you don't know shit about what you just jumped in. Right. Like, it doesn't matter if it's going to be big if you don't know shit about what you just did. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's one of those things that the impact is going to be heavy over the next 20 years, but it also takes 6 months of sitting down and really spending quite a few hours on it to understand what you're doing, especially if you want to have some massive impact in that world.
Yes, it's industry of the unknown. And so when you have the industry of the unknown, that means that the knowledge is limitless, and so there's never going to be a point to where you understand everything. So you have to constantly be in student mode. And I just don't have that capacity for that specific subject. Be in that mode, but I do know people who are into it, and I'm trusting them to kind of do that for me. So
Well, I got two final questions for you today, brother. Again, thank you so much for taking time out to jump on this podcast and have a conversation with me. All my wishes is to be able to network and connect with amazing, powerful individuals like yourself. And by powerful, it doesn't necessarily have to mean financially or impact in the community, but just the energy that you give off. And I think you do a great job doing that. you know, a lot of times before I bring most of my guests on, I definitely try to do a little bit of research. So like I told you before we jumped on, a lot of individuals were suggesting you and referring that I should have you on, but definitely took some time to, you know, look through your socials, look through some videos, or, you know, seeing you pop up on at certain events, and just, you know, listening and paying attention. And I really have, you know, consistently liked your energy, and then also liked your energy on the show. So keep it up, man. I'm sure you bring that same love and you know, impact to your family household. So shout out to that too. So keep being an amazing Black father, amazing Black professional, and just being an amazing you, Black or not.
Yeah, fact. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. So two final questions for you, man. When you feel kind of overwhelmed or unfocused, being that you're doing a lot of stuff right now, or you feel like you've lost your focus temporarily, what do you do? Or maybe a better question would be, what questions do you ask yourself to kind of help you get out of that quote unquote funk?
Got you. What I had to do is actually I just had to seek out help, right? So I have a personal therapist and I have a business coach that I rely heavily on to kind of help me filter out my thoughts, because there is so many things happening, and just making sure that I compartmentalize them the right way.
Yeah.
But one question that they both asked me to continue to ask myself is, what do I have control over, right? And when things are going array, or when things are not like laid out the way that I wanted them to be laid out, what can I immediately do about it? And if there's nothing I can do about it, then what is there to do but to do nothing? And really put my focus into the things that I can control. And so that's honestly kind of the biggest thing that I do, is being able to talk it out, because most of the time when I'm talking, I'm figuring it out right when I'm talking about it.
Yeah.
I've learned that about myself. And then two, just really just taking that time to assess the situation, understand what I can control, come up with that strategic plan with the things that I can control, and then being at peace. Like, that's the thing too, is like, one thing that my therapist always says is like, you know, when are you just not doing what you're doing?
Right.
Like, there's rarely ever those moments. And I'm like, when can I do that? And he was like, so if you're so intentional about, you know, having time for everybody else, when are you going to be intentional about having time for yourself? And what that did was that I now wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning just to sit and just be, you know, just be Craig, you know, and not be thinking about Craig as BSKC, Craig as VFA, or Craig as this culture leader, but just be me, you know. And I've realized that me is, I like playing video games. You know, I like going to the shooting range. I realized going through a bunch of myself, I used to draw all the time. So like, I just picked that back up again recently, just to kind of be the human being that I am. Still learning, you know. I don't wake up all the time at 5 a.m. Can't say, I don't want to bring out this facade of like, oh, he's high growth and he knows how, you know, he knows how to, it's hard to engage into, you know, new habits. You know, it's hard to understand that you're a people pleaser and that you do things to please people. You know, it's hard to kind of get that switch over. So anybody who's taking this advice and just being like, it's going to be a slow grind. You're not going to do it. But think about it, is like, what of this new habit that I'm going to do consistently, and my consistent thing to make sure that I always have this habit in my head is I literally have to schedule the time out on my calendar.
Yes, sir.
It has to be an alarm that hits me, and I have to make that conscious decision. I'm not going to do that right now, and I'm going to reschedule it for another time. And so by me doing that, I'm creating consistency and identifying that that's the time that I need. And then eventually it'll slow grow into a new habit. But yeah, man, like that's kind of what I do when I feel overwhelmed or kind of, you know, things are, and it happens a lot, you know what I mean? And that's another thing I want to normalize is transparency and failures. You're going to learn from those failures. You're going to learn from those losses. You're going to learn from those moments where you're like, what the fuck am I doing? You know what I'm saying? But my biggest thing that a preacher said to me, that is like, you don't know that God is your foundation, and you only hit rock bottom to understand that God is the rock at the bottom, right? And so when you hit rock bottom and you understand like there is a stopping point, you know what I mean, to where I'm falling at, now I have that foundation to get up and go at it again, and learn why I failed the way that I failed, you know what I mean? So it's so much power in those failures. And so I'd say embrace it, and cry it out, punch it out, whatever you got to do, get past that emotional piece so that then you start triggering into the active piece, which is, seeking revenge on what what pushed you down in the first place, and that revenge.
And that's where shit happens. Yes, sir. I love it. I love it. I love it, man. Our final question of the day, man. I ask all my guests this question. It's your last day on earth. You're 177 years old, however old you want to be. You've lived the life you've wanted to live. You've been able to have massive impact, but you're sitting in your rocking chair. It's your last hour. Your great grandkids are sitting at your feet and they're like, great grandpa, give me one piece of advice on how to live life. What are you going to tell them?
Live life authentically. Just be you. Show up as yourself. Show up with the talents that you have, that God gave you, and everything's going to be all right.
Hell yeah. I love it. Let the people know where they can find you and support you in your journey moving forward, brother.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram mainly. I kind of took a break, but I'll be back pretty soon at Craig M_KC, something like that, or Craig MKC. If you type in Craig, more likely, or Craig Moore, I'll pop up. You can reach me on my website too at www.vskc.org. Find out more about VFA is www.ventureforamerica.org. LinkedIn is the only social media app that I kept on. So type in Craig Moore 2 and I'll pop up. And but yeah, man, I'm always down to meet. I'll probably, if you say, hey, I want to meet up, I'll send you my calendar link and we'll set up a Zoom and chat it out and figure out how I can support you in any way.
Hell yeah, man. Well, again, man, thank you for your time and effort today. It was an amazing conversation. Look forward to connecting with you in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you guys leave a 5-star review if you found this podcast informational, valuable, or you smiled at one time, because if you smile once, it just deserves a 5-star. I don't know what else to say. So make sure you guys share. That's the only way for us to grow. It is your boy, CIZZY, live action, back at it again. I'm going to catch y'all later. Salutski.